prince of the eunuchs. And here, one of the main focuses, Daniel, in verse number 8, Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself. Daniel had been taught Jewish culture, you can't eat this, you can't partake of this, you can't, this meat, this fowl of the air, you can't partake of anything that you see in the law that Moses is right. He was taught that growing up. So now he's away from his home, he's away from everyone that would know that he's not living like he's supposed to, right? The king's giving you meat. Maybe you can adjust and say, well, if he gives us pork, I won't eat that. But maybe there's a piece of meat that I can partake of. Well, maybe I shouldn't have this, but I can find a workaround. But Daniel, through all the teachings, through all the things he has done so far in his life, purposed in his heart to say, I know what I've been taught, and I'm going to try to live as God has put me here. So this is Daniel's first trial in his life. First test is, will I live how God has called me to live? And he purposes in his heart, I'm not going to defile myself. I'm not going to do the things that everyone else expects, but I'm going to live to the best of my abilities as God has intended. And then we see at the end of chapter 1, when he purposes his heart, we see his reward at Daniel 1 and 18. Now at the end of days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. So Daniel learns after he says, I'm going to my heart's purpose, God rewards him, and he gives him more knowledge. He gives him, yes, sorry, I totally forgot I need that. That way people on YouTube, if they want to hear, they can. Gives him more knowledge than all those around him. God blesses him, helps him, makes him wiser than those that would be around. So then we get to Daniel chapter 2. So now he's learned, man, following after God, it works really well. It's worth it. I've now top of my class. But now he's going out from where the king provided, and now he's just one of the wise men in Babylon. And in Daniel chapter 2, verse number 12, we see his next trial. And for this cause, in the beginning of this chapter, the king has dreamed a dream. Everyone's trying to figure out what the dream is. The king can't remember and says, you tell me the dream. They look at him and say, no, you tell us the dream. We'll give you the interpretation. And the king said, what in the world am I giving y'all all this food for if y'all can't even figure out what I dreamed? So then we're with Daniel. Daniel is now, his life is being threatened because the king said, well, I think you guys are a bunch of frauds, and I'm going to wipe this out. I'm tired of the system the way it is. I'm wiping you all out. And so Daniel 2 and 12 says, for this cause the king was angry and very furious and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made these things known to Daniel, the thing known to Daniel. And then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time and that he would show the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they would desire mercies of the God of heaven concerning this secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. And in the second trial, you see Daniel learns the power of prayer. His heart's been purposed after God. He's been wanting to be as best as he can. He's been living, I'm sure he's probably what he was praying at that time. But here he comes back and says, okay, now I have an extreme need. My life is in danger. And I could tell you there's been a lot of times growing up in my family that I've seen that we're going through, and it's like, okay, if there's a time to pray, now is the time. Nothing is going to change this but prayer. So Daniel's learning the power of prayer and how it can deliver him. And so in Daniel 2:47, because after this you see God gives Daniel the vision. So through chapter 2, he gives the vision to the king, tells him, it is God that has given this to me. And so after he gives the interpretation of the dream to the king, this is the king's response. The king answered unto Daniel and said, of truth it is that your God is a God of gods and a Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man and gave him many great gifts and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. At the end of chapter 2, he learns the power of prayer and that he's now found himself in an even higher position. More power, more responsibility, more worries, more stress, right? Me and Abby are looking into moving into this new apartment. I'm excited. More room, more space. Toby can actually breathe and not be worried about me stepping on him trying to get through the hallway. But I look at this place and I go, man, that's a lot more yard to take care of. That's a little bit more house to clean. That's a lot more stuff to do. It's like my parents, when they got this new house, my dad looked at it and said, it's a lot of work. Everyone said, oh, wow, look at this. Oh, wow, look at this. Isn't this beautiful? That was KK, my mom, my sister. Oh, man, this is wonderful. My dad looked, he had a lot different aspect than they did. He said, that's a lot of yard to keep up with. That's a whole lot of maintenance around this place. So I don't know if y'all ever heard what we called it. We called it the Royer Resort. And me, Maddie, my mom, my dad, we were the staff at the resort because we were working to keep the place running. And our one stay-in was KK. So she got to enjoy the resort. But Daniel now is in a new position that comes with new stress, new responsibilities, new people coming to you with new problems. So it's a lot easy when you get through one trial. I am the most guilty of this. Get through a hard place and pray with God, get to something new, and let off the gas and go, okay, well, God, now that I'm here, I got a lot of things I got to take care of and I got to do. And I have the habit of saying, I'm going to try to figure this out with my wisdom and with my skill. And the thing that makes Daniel such an amazing character is no matter how much responsibility he got, he found a way to keep himself level, to keep himself rooted in Christ, and to go, okay, more responsibility, the more I must rely on God. More problems, the more I'm going to have to seek the Lord. And we keep seeing this through the places that he goes, because we're going to skip to Daniel chapter 5. And now he's now province, so he's over the province of Babylon. He's been doing that for all the way until King Nebuchadnezzar has passed. And now his son is taking his place. He's now the ruler. And he's decided to throw a party. In Daniel chapter 5, verse number 3, it says, then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of God, which was at Jerusalem. And the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. The king cried aloud to bring the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. And the king spake and said to the wise men of Babylon, whosoever shall read this writing and shew me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. The man was so scared, the Bible just said his knees knocked. His knees knocked. He tried, he brought these things thinking that these vessels are obviously from just a place we conquered. Man, we conquered their God. What does it matter? Their God means nothing. I'm going to worship my gods with the vessels they use to worship their God. But what the king didn't realize is, God said, you're not going to put any idol before me. He's a jealous God. So the moment he grabs the vessels that were once used in Jerusalem to worship him, God said, okay, obviously, this is not, I've let a lot of things happen because you're not, but this is where the line's drawn. And the king gives forth all these things he's going to do to the man that can read what God has wrote. As we get down further in the chapter, we read what God wrote is no one who could interpret that. You don't want to say that to the king. This man could have your head. And you don't want to upset the king. But I do want the riches and the spoils to be the third of the kingdom. That's how I would think, right? You're telling me I can get more power, more money? Yeah, buddy. I'm all for it. I'll try. I'm sure everyone lined up to try to read that thing, hoping, oh yeah, I'm ready to be third of the kingdom, baby. I'm going to be third ruler. And no one could interpret it. And then here comes Daniel. They finally find Daniel. In Daniel 5:13, it says, then was Daniel brought in before the king, and the king spake and said unto Daniel, art thou that Daniel, which art of the children of the captivity of Judah, whom the king my father brought out of Jewry? I have even heard of thee, that the spirit of the gods is in thee, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom is found in thee. Then it goes to offer him the things that we heard he offered the Chaldeans and the soothsayers. But I find it interesting, the first thing he says to Daniel is he reminds him, you were once a captive, you are a captive from this land. And look at all that we've given you. Didn't my father bring you out, set you up, give you this nice place to live in, feed you, gave you responsibility? Give me a good word. You ever been in trouble and you're trying to butter up somebody so it's a little bit less? I can tell you, tick my dad off, do something I wasn't supposed to. Man, Dad, did you do something different with your hair? Looks a little fuller today. You know, you're trying to find a way to get them to bust a laugh before you get a spanking. Normally didn't work out for me that way. I normally got the whooping. It couldn't make him break. So Daniel 5:17, this is Daniel's response to being offered, hey, I'm going to make you the third ruler. I'm going to give you scarlet. I'm going to give you a gold chain around your neck. If you can just read this. This was Daniel's response. It says, then Daniel answered and said before the king, let thy gifts be to thyself, and give thy rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known to him the interpretation. Daniel told the king right there, I won't be bought. I'm going to tell you what it says, not what you want to hear. In Daniel 1, he has a heart that's purpose after God, and he sees the process. In Daniel 2, we see that he learns how prayer can deliver. In Daniel chapter 5, here we're seeing is he's not afraid of the authority of man. The king has authority over anybody. He can kill anybody. He can honor anybody that he wants to. And Daniel's response shows you his trust is not in man, but in God. So he says, when the king offers him a reward, his reward truly means nothing, because Daniel's hope isn't in what the king can give him. His hope is in what God can give him and what God has done for him. So he says, I would rather say something that makes you upset that you don't want to hear than to read something that soothes your ears, because he wants a soothsayer to come and soothe him because he's afraid. Daniel said, that's not what I'm going to be. I answer to authority that's higher than you. And Daniel realizes the only authority that matters is the King of Kings, which is God. And so he begins to, between where we're going to jump down to 22 and between 17 and 22, he begins to remind the son of Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, hey, your dad once thought highly of himself too. And your dad once tried to take all glory to himself. And he became a beast in the field for 7 years, dumb like an animal, lived outside, couldn't keep, he did all these things. God humbled him. And then we see in 22, he starts with what it says, and thou, his son, O Belshazzar, hast not humbled thine heart, though thou knewest all this. So you knew, you've heard of my God, your father, because in chapter 4, his father testifies about the God of Daniel and how he is God of gods, Lord to kings. Nebuchadnezzar testifies of the greatness of God. And his son would have heard these stories, but he still decides to go and grab the things from his father's where they had the vessels at. And he decides still that he knows where they came from. He knows what God they were to. And he still decides that he's greater than that God because obviously they're captives to my kingdom. Verse number 23, but hast lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee. And thou and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drunk wine in them, and thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know. And the God is in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified. Then has the part of the hand sent from him, and the writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. Mene tekel, and I don't even know how to pronounce that one. Anybody got a good guess on it? Thank you, Sister Paula. This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Peres, the kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. And that night was Belshazzar the king of the Chaldeans slain. Daniel made a wise choice. He decided, I'm going to speak on what God has for me to speak, not what man wants to hear. And after you see the word of God was spoken and the word of God was fulfilled. And Daniel now is under a new king. And now he's going to have new challenges and he's going to face when he goes to the next. Can I get Daniel chapter 6, verse number 1? And it pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom. And over these 3 presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the princes might give accounts unto them, and the king should have no damage. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. We see on this now, it's a whole new king, it's a whole new place, and Daniel has somehow risen to the top yet again. Do we think that's a fluke? An answer's okay, I promise. Do you think it just happened because, well, that was the guy that was third ruler, we should probably make him do something? I wouldn't think so. Normally, whenever a new king comes in, you don't usually want to reuse the last people, just in case their loyalty was still with the last guy. Normally, you would think, I want a clean house, set up my own stuff. But somehow in all this commotion and all this switching of kingdoms, now it's new king, new people. You got to somehow figure out, how am I going to live through this? It's another king. And Daniel somehow found his way back to the top because there was an excellent spirit within him. He still was doing what he was supposed to. He was still living, and someone looks at Daniel and goes, hey, wow, there's something really different about this guy Daniel. And the king looks and goes, there is something different about that guy Daniel. And if I can get him to work for me, man, make my life a lot easier. So somehow Daniel ends up being the top of the three that are ruling over, and the princes have to come and report. So obviously, the people that have been a part of this kingdom well before Daniel was brought in, those princes are going to be kind of upset because I want power, I want authority, I want to tell people no and tell them what they can and cannot do, and I want to have that power. And so they decide they're going to go and get it from a different way. You see, Daniel always received authority because he was submitted to the authority above him. He gave answers. Now, he wasn't afraid to lose his life to that authority if God told him to speak something, but he did submit himself, and he did do the things that they required and asked of him and showed himself. So Daniel has received authority because God has wanted him to have it. These men want authority through how they see fit, which is however they desire to get it, which is obviously, as you begin to see in Daniel chapter 6, is to try to undermine, to try to find fault with, to tear down these people and to tear down his character and to find a way to make him disobey the law. And they say, well, the only way we're going to be able to really get Daniel in a bind is we got to make fault with his God and him. Because at this point in Daniel's life, he is a well-known follower of God. He has purpose in his heart, he's followed, he's prayed, and everyone knows Daniel serves his God. They have their own gods. Well, Daniel has his God, and hey, Daniel, do you want to go over here with me today? I'm going to go do this. Hey, I can't go. I got to go pray. I got to go talk to God. I'm going to go and pray. So Daniel obviously had his life so set up that everyone around him knew he served his God and knew he would not stop serving his God for anything or anyone. So this is how they know they're going to have to find fault, is to make it where he cannot serve his God. And you see in the next, I think it's number 10, Madison, verse number 10. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, and this was the petition from the king had went out and said, no one can pray to any God during this time for these many days. And so he knows it's signed. Daniel knows the decree. He's part of the kingdom, part of the leadership of the kingdom, so he knows what the king has said. So Daniel knew that the writing was signed. He went into his house, and his windows being open in his chamber toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God as he did aforetime. Stay right there, Maddie, I'm sorry. You see, Daniel in chapter 6 has a trial, and it's funny, I'm guessing as you get older, because I've seen from my parents, I've seen from others, somehow God, it's like he stacks on them. It's like playing checkers and someone gets their guy at the end, they get to stack it, and now it's even harder to try to get that piece out of there. Seems like that sometimes with trials in life. So Daniel was tested if he was going to eat. Will your heart be truly set to follow after me? Okay, Daniel, when your life is threatened, will you seek me and and will you pray and seek after me to receive from me what I can give you? And then Daniel, will you speak a word to a king? Even though he might take your life for it, will you still be able to speak the word? And in chapter 6, a king speaks a word, his heart set to see if his heart is really, these men try to see if his heart's really set towards his God. Are you going to still continue to pray And are you going to do it against the authority of the king's word? And Daniel, knowing what was written, knowing all these things, said, the only way I got to this position was by trusting in God. And the only way I've gotten here was because I have set up a way that I'm going to have time with God. I'm going to spend a moment with God here. I'm going to make sure I can give supplication to Him. No matter what's going on, 3 times a day, I'm going to face Jerusalem, which would be their custom, and I'm going to pray. I'm doing this no matter what. And obviously we know it was pretty custom for him to do this. And it was well known that he did this because in verse number 11, then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. They knew where to find him. They knew where to look. Let's go to Daniel's house. Most likely the windows are going to be open. He's going to probably be praying like he's not supposed to. I mean, you got to have some confidence in that brother's walk with God to make the decree and then just go up to his house and wait for him. Verse number 12, then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, the thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. The law of the Medes and Persians. They said, we're going to get the law that we know. This is the authority of all. This is our law. Verse number 13 says, then answered they, said before the king, that Daniel, now this is interesting, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day. It's always interesting. People always like to remind someone who someone else is. The king in chapter 5 says, aren't you Daniel out of the captivity of Judah? And now these men come to the king and go, isn't this guy out of the captivity of Judah? He is a prisoner of war, and he isn't going to listen to you? When he has his God, his city, his country, his people have been conquered already? They like to just kind of drop that in there. Remind him, well, if this guy can disobey you, what about everybody else? What about the other people that were going in the places that we're conquering? What are they going to do when they see this man not listen to the king? And then you see in verse number 14, going through most of this chapter, because we're going to jump down to 25. But what you see during most of the rest of this chapter is the king, because God has given Daniel so much favor, the king does everything in his power to try to reverse this law. He tries to change the law the best he can, but they know he can't change it. They made sure to secure it. There's no way for Daniel to escape by man's power. So the authority of this world has assigned Daniel to go to the den of lions, which is a familiar story. And the king makes a statement in there when you go read it. Daniel, surely thy God will deliver you. Having faith in his God. Daniel, there ain't no way you did this without knowing that your God could keep you. There ain't no way you are this consistent. I've never met anybody that follows their God as hard as faithfully as you do, as consistently as you do. So Daniel, surely your God can deliver you from this. Surely he's going to take care of you. Surely there's a chance. And then we see at the end of the chapter, Daniel obviously is delivered from the lion's den. The people that have brought these accusations have come and they're now thrown into the lions. The lions eat them up before they can even really hit the ground. The lions are tearing them apart. And so, and began to see the king. When the king sees this, he realizes Man's authority over Daniel said he should die. The only authority that is above the law of the Medes and the Persians is God's authority. And so you see that the king has to realize, I decreed that this man should be dead, and by what man has set up, he would be. But because there's something greater than me, and there's an authority higher than me, this man has been delivered. And you see Daniel 6:25. Then King Darius wrote unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom, men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and steadfast forever, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh signs and wonders in heaven and in earth, who hath delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. You see, Daniel as a character is a really amazing story, because it all started with a boy who purposed his heart to follow after God. And he never stopped. He never stopped trying through all things. Through every trial, through every test, through everything that happens in his life, his heart stays purposed with God. You see, Pastor's been talking about going into this new year, evangelizing, doing these things of trying to reach out and get further and do more. And when I started reading Daniel, what was so powerful of Daniel, his greatest evangelism tool was himself, was his life. He could tell people about Christ. He could talk to people about it. And I'm sure they would listen and they would hear. But was always a testimony to everybody else was that in chapter 1, I'm not going to defile myself. Give me pulse to eat. Prove me 10 days is chapter 1. Give me 10 days and see if I look better. And he proves to the eunuch that's above him, he looked better. He was fatter, fairer than all the children that were also eating and partaking of the king's meat. He looked better. And that was a testament to that eunuch living this way is better. Then it's a testament to the king, because Daniel comes and says, give me a little bit more time and I'll interpret this dream. And Daniel comes back to him and says, there is a God, King Nebuchadnezzar. No man could reveal it to you. Nobody could show you. But there is a God that is in heaven that can reveal the secrets of man. And Daniel gives him, and the King Nebuchadnezzar, after he hears that, surely, Daniel, you're God, because nobody could do what I'm asking you to do, but because of your God. In chapter 5, everybody in that kingdom, word spreads like wildfire, right? I'm sure back then it was the same as it is now. Something gets said, it goes quick. Everyone heard what Daniel told the king, that you've been weighed in the balance, you're found wanting, and that he's going to take this kingdom, deliver it from you. And the next day, they see what Daniel had said, not a year, 2 years later. That same night, once he speaks it, that king is killed. And now you're under new rule. And now in Daniel 6, you see the lion's den. And this king, through the life of Daniel, through what Daniel can offer and what Daniel can do, Daniel can't close the mouth of lions, but God can. And because Daniel was willing to say, I'm going to purpose my heart, I'm going to do whatever I can, but I'm going to trust in God. God puts him in situations that are a testament to everyone else around him. I wouldn't want to be Daniel going in to face the lion's den. I wouldn't want to be that. But sometimes God puts his people through things because he knows it's going to be a testament to those around you. So it's going to be your testimony, but it's going to do greater good whenever you put your heart in God. And sometimes if we're not careful, we wait for, if I'm not careful, I'll wait till I'm about to be cast in the lion's den to really seek God. Right? I'm guilty of that. I wait till life gets really hard, and then I go, whoa, okay, I got to pick up God where I left him. I got to go back over here. I got to get back onto prayer. And what I was realizing when I was reading Daniel is he never left prayer. He never left these things. So whenever the problems came up, he was not caught off guard. He was not worried. He said, I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing. So this year, what God's, I know for me, is God, help my heart be completely purposed on you. That everything within me, that my consistency with you, that I don't wait at the beginning of the year, get fired up because it's a new year and I'm going to follow after Christ. And then by February, I'm sputtering out and well, God, you've done enough for me this year. I'm doing pretty good right now, so I'll come back to you, and wait till July and say, hey, God, things are getting kind of tight. It's getting a little uncomfortable. I feel like a noose is getting a little tight around my neck. I better start praying. But Lord, help me to be consistent this year. Help my heart to be trying to seek after you. Help me pray. Help me look after. Help me to see the things that you need me to see, to speak the things you need me to speak this year, not just in church, but Lord, let me live a life that is altering to those around me. The thing that made Daniel so powerful was that heart, and that everybody else could see his example. He didn't try to make somebody else be an example. He didn't say, well, the preacher's going to be the example. But he said, my life is going to be the first example. I will go through what I have to prove to others. It's 10:48. Main service is going to be in about 12 minutes. Bathroom break. Greet people. It's good to have. Olan Fami, I'm sorry you didn't get Sunday school. But you got about a 12-minute break before main service is going to be starting. So greet one another. Ask about the holidays. Whatever you want to do. I mean, it's free reign now. Just no one go hanging from any chandeliers. We might get in trouble for that. Oh.